Saitama is a very popular character, constantly being put in versus matchups against characters like Gojo, Goku, Naruto, etc. However, I feel like people really don't recognize Saitama as a character or for who he is, or in general really just overlook One Punch Man for what it stands for. And so it got me thinking, since usually people say, oh, who would win, Goku versus Saitama? Why not put Saitama in the same versus Goku so that people will actually have more of a better understanding, and not to mention this is just a fun excuse to have a cool what if. In my opinion, I think story-wise this is going to be my best what if, and if you guys do want to show your support and want to see part 2, then let me know down in the comments. I'm probably going to make a part 2 regardless because of the fact that Saitama is in Dragon Ball and, it's incorporating 2 of my favorite verses, Dragon Ball and One Punch Man. But after watching the video, let me know down in the comment section how you guys liked it and what other videos you would like me to do in the near future. We'd start our story off a little before the King Piccolo saga, where we see a skinny man named Saitama just being your average male. However, Saitama wanted to do more. Like in One Punch Man, he would go on to begin his training with only having a couple months down, and eventually we get King Piccolo rising, and his children attacking all over the world. For some motivation, maybe we see Saitama watching on TV the 21st and the 22nd Budokai, which was just a build up to him eventually wanting to train and work out. This leads into Drum approaching a nearby city, causing mad chaos. This is when he approaches a little boy who's just paralyzed in fear witnessing this monster destroy his home, until we see the goat Saitama running a quick mile, and similarly to the situation when fighting Mr. Drum thinking Saitama is just a human would stand still laughing, but his humorous expression quickly dwindles away when the force of Saitama's punch launching him into the side of a building. Saitama, being amazed by his own power, would get a little arrogant, allowing Drum to recover and land a solid blow himself. When both characters begin to just throw hands, we see both of them being sorta comparable, with Drum just having the slightest advantage. However, Saitama realizes he's gotta save this kid and play a lot smarter, and this is when he begins to try and use techniques against Drum, but even Saitama doesn't have that because he's just good at punching. Luckily for him though, we see an old man approaching the open street where Drum is fighting and would tell him to back off the kid. Drum would smile as he would then throw a kick, but that's when the old man would release a sigh, blocking Drum's blows and somewhat making him hit himself with double the power. Drum would knock himself out because of this, and the old man would then say how he should just leave it to the big guys to play hero. However, as Bang tries to exit like a badass, he just ends up cracking his back, and Saitama would have just been overall confused from the situation and eventually knocked out due to fatigue. Bang would have left Saitama alone since he knew he wasn't gonna die or anything, and would have eventually met up with Tien and Roshi to take on King Piccolo. Now before I continue on with the main story, I'm gonna make a quick pause and actually talk about why Bang is here. You see, this what if is what if Saitama was in Dragon Ball, but I do want to add other elements that do correlate with Saitama that could be implemented in Dragon Ball as well. And Bang, I think, is a fine exception. I mean, he can just have a popular dojo rivaling the Crane and Turtle schools. But unlike the Crane school, Bang and Master Roshi's dojos get along, and they're actually old-time friends. And Bang, having basic knowledge of Ki, would sense King Piccolo on the rise and sensing Roshi, so he would be on his way there. However, he just so happened to encounter Drum and Saitama, and here we are. Now when Bang arrives, Tambourine would then intercept them and would begin to give Roshi and the others a hard time due to his flight ability. But Bang and the others actually take him down thanks to Bang mainly leading the charge with strategy, and Tien would have tried throwing multiple combos, keeping Tambourine on his toes, allowing Roshi to fire a Kamehameha. However, Tien is confused because he fires it at Bang, but this is when we see Bang focus all of his power and would reflect the Kamehameha with double the force, and he would launch it towards Tambourine's way, turning him into bacon. Roshi and the others prepare to fight King Piccolo alongside with Bang, but this is when Goku would arrive himself, and the rest of the King Piccolo saga literally happens the same except for one slight change, that being Roshi's alive. After these events, Saitama, now knowing that there are far stronger opponents than himself, would motivate him even more to continue his training, and Saitama, instead of doing his training for a couple of weeks or months at best, for the first time, he's actually going to be training for 3 years straight. And obviously Saitama's potential is a little too crazy for Dragon Ball, so I'm just gonna kind of suppress it. He's still gonna be the One Punch Man, however, if we just give him his normal potential, it would just be way too overpowered, and for a story like Dragon Ball, we don't want him to be completely OP. Since we're putting Saitama in a completely different verse, but he's still one of our main characters, we gotta make at least a little balance for both worlds. Anyways, by the end of the 3-year time skip, he's starting to look more like his iconic self, with him being bald and deciding to get a cool outfit while participating in the tournament. He would put on a yellow suit with red gloves and boots with the white cape for extra sauce. He would register himself, and for the tournament, he would be known as Caped Baldy. We'll say he replaces Shen since Kami would have sensed such a strong presence at the tournament, and decides instead of participating in the tournament, he's just going to watch in the stands, preparing for the worst case scenario. This means Saitama would face Yamcha first, where he'd try to flex off the Spirit Ball, but sadly he'd just end up getting clowned on, and Saitama would slap him away casually. After this, Saitama would then take Kami's place in fighting Piccolo Jr., which is a little fitting narratively since now Saitama can truly test his power on someone who's even stronger than the Namekian he lost to, showing that Saitama is stepping up, and the fight starts off with Piccolo saying how he can throw the first blow, but before he can even finish the sentence, Saitama rushes in and punches Piccolo, saying okay. Piccolo is sent flying, however he manages to just barely catch himself, saving himself from elimination, and he's surprised with the power behind this bald human, and he would begin to remove his weights, knowing he can't hold back on Saitama. He would attempt to fire a point-blank demon wave, which Saitama would negate completely with just one casual punch, even going so far as to obliterate both arms of Piccolo due to the sheer force Saitama was exerting. Piccolo would use all of his stamina to regenerate both arms, but Saitama would already clothesline him with a headbutt, eliminating the Namekian. Piccolo vows to get his revenge as he goes out to train intensely, while the rest of the tournament goes underway. Goku vs Tien happens the same, and the last match eventually comes down to Goku vs Saitama, the ultimate fight. Now here, I definitely say Saitama is way stronger than Goku, however Goku has something that Saitama doesn't, and that is martial arts skill. Not to mention, Goku himself is actually strong and he's not just like a weak human, so Saitama isn't going to be able to simply just use his power to save the day. No, this puts Goku in Garo's position from the webcomic, where he's basically just weaving all of Saitama's attacks and not being hit by Saitama. However, he just can't do damage to him. But that's not really the goal, and the goal is to eliminate Saitama, and so Goku would actually outsmart Saitama, using a foot Kamehameha to catch him off guard and tackling him out of the arena. He would tell Saitama the next time they meet again, he'll be strong enough to take him on, and Saitama before leaving would say one word, that being, okay. 5 years would pass and Goku would have still been raising his family. However, with Saitama being so much more powerful than Goku himself and being around, Goku would actually have a goal and have a good reason to train during the 5 years. And because of this, Goku wouldn't start off at a power level of 416. Instead, I think at least he should be over 2 times his base form, having his full powered state in his base form a power level of over 1000, and with the Kamehameha, aka his max power, it's over 2180. During the time skip as well, Saitama would have just been training and cleaning up the streets of planet Earth, and we would cut to current time where Saitama is currently talking with the farmer he met by just jumping super high trying to look for some interesting opponents, and he just so happened to land here, and the farmer would have shot him, but when realizing it does nothing, Saitama would just look at him weird and would have kept on walking. However, that's when a space pod lands near them, where we see Raditz arrive on Earth. Raditz, like in canon, would sense the farmer and call him weak while he attempts to scan Saitama, whose numbers wouldn't show up on the scouter for some weird reason. Raditz finds it odd, but he tries to hit Saitama anyway because he just assumes it's a random human, which leads into him dodging like how he did against Flashy Flash, and catching Raditz's punch, saying what is he doing. Raditz would move his hand back and would begin to fly up in the air, firing a point-blank double Sunday at Saitama and the farmer. The farmer would just be screaming in panic while Saitama would get in front of him, saying not to worry. As Saitama would then show off a new move that he learned from seeing Bang fight, and that is the serious push. Basically, he pushes his opponent's attack right back at them with more force than what they actually generated. And this isn't really with skill, this is with power, but to Saitama, it is skill. Anyways, Raditz is consumed by his own blast, and he would be barely alive on the ground. This is when Piccolo, Goku, along with Bang and Roshi, characters who can sense ki, arrive on the scene and question what was going on. I think Goku would have probably mentioned the Dragon Ball, saying maybe they could save his brother, but Saitama says that he does not have good intentions and he's evil. And Raditz, before dying, would tell them of the 2 other Saiyans that are much stronger than himself. And with the Dragon Balls being mentioned, you already know Vegeta and Nappa are going to be making their way towards Earth to try and collect them. And so our fighters have roughly a year to train with each other, and this is when Bang and Roshi would decide to go off on their own, telling the others that they're going to be training as hard as they can to try and catch up with this new generation. Goku would smile and say good luck to the both of them, and this is when Goku, Piccolo, and Saitama would come to the conclusion that they should probably train together due to them being the top 3 strongest. Now, for the most part, Goku and Piccolo are just spending their training trying to press Saitama, while Saitama is just standing there taking all the beatings, which means more so Goku and Piccolo are getting gains than Saitama, but Saitama doesn't really need gains right now, since currently he's at the top. However, he does do some moderately light training to keep up. By the end of the time skip, I definitely think Goku and Piccolo would have both reached a power level of over 30,000 thanks to them just getting beaten up so many times, and Goku especially getting Zenkais. Goku would be at a solid 32,000 while Piccolo is at 31,500, and Saitama is still at the top, but I'm not going to show his power level just yet. As we know, Saitama doesn't really go all out and has casual levels, then normal levels, and then serious levels of attacks. And all those just kind of vary, so I'd rather just kind of keep it like that and say, oh, okay, well, Saitama is serious at this point, or Saitama is normal, rather than saying, oh, he's at a power level of 60,000, so he's gonna lose to this about it. Unironically, it'd be boring to have a character who one-punches people and is super overpowered have a power level. Anyways, when the Saiyans arrive and blow up a whole city, Saitama would be enraged by this and just goes in guns blazing. He moves in almost instinctively and just straight up one-punches Nappa on the spot. Vegeta, not even being able to see Saitama fly towards him, would question how did he do that. And Saitama would just look at him dead in the eyes and say, worry about yourself, as he would then throw a casual punch. But to his surprise, he sees Vegeta evade this attack and kick him up in the air. Vegeta laughs, saying how this power is quite impressive, but the lack of experience really shows. And Goku and the others by this point would have arrived, and I think Vegeta and Goku would settle their fight exactly how they did in canon, but when Vegeta comes back, it's going to be a lot more interesting. You see, when he returns and he begins to combat Goku in his Great Ape form and he's beating him down, this would lead into the other Z fighters trying to attempt to aid him, like Tien, Chaozu, Yamcha, but those fighters sadly get caught in the crossfire, and those three, like in canon, are sadly taken out, while Piccolo would decide to go all out by going into his giant form and stalling as long as he could. Vegeta would give the Namekian respect for having the guts to stand up to him, however he lacks the power, as he would then shoot a point-blank Great Ape beam at the giant Namekian, vaporizing him. Piccolo is also killed, which enrages Goku on top of having all of his other best friends die. You see, I think Piccolo would have still gotten his development of turning good, however, it's not going to be like a friendship type thing with like how it was with Gohan and Piccolo, but Piccolo still grew with Goku. Goku does have that natural ability of just turning people around him who are evil good, and having Saitama around, who is Piccolo's sworn enemy, but Saitama doesn't really care. We see that it's easy for Piccolo to get along with these guys and eventually even call them friends by the end. And so we see Goku get a boost from being enraged, however it clearly isn't enough to deal with Great Ape Vegeta, and Great Ape Vegeta is about to smack Goku away, but that is when we see Saitama come in to save Goku and easily stop Vegeta's blow. Saitama would then say how that's enough and they've caused enough damage. Saitama doesn't know these people too well, however before meeting them he was just a normal guy trying to become strong. And now he's met people he can even call his friends and are actually strong themselves, which in turn could even make Saitama stronger. Vegeta doesn't want to hear that crap, and he would tell Saitama in order to be strong, he has to be born strong. Saitama would sigh as he would then prepare to show what he learned through hard work, and he would immediately blitz Great Ape Vegeta, kicking him up in the air. Vegeta would recover and would try to attack Saitama, but Saitama is just effortlessly dodging him and just beaming him around the mountain. We literally just see a little yellow figure beating up a giant Great Ape, and it's just hilarious at this point. Vegeta, bloodlusted, would get ready to fire his own Great Ape Gallic gun, however this is when Saitama would counteract with his normal punch. We see that Saitama's normal punch is struggling, and so he decides to kick it up a notch, throwing consecutive normal punches, however it's just beaming Vegeta around, and Vegeta is able to survive them. Vegeta would get ready to throw his own blow, but this is when Saitama would throw a consecutive normal punch directly at Vegeta's stomach, which would make him cough up a lot of blood, and him just taking so many blows from Saitama would force him to revert into his base form. Vegeta's on the ground while Saitama is just standing over him, saying that he's going to give him the same treatment that he gave to Piccolo, as he would then get ready to charge up his death punch. As Vegeta sees his life flash before his eyes, Goku luckily stops Saitama in time and tells him he wants to have a fair fight with him whenever they recover, and Goku's strong enough to actually contend with this man. He wants to beat Vegeta on his own next time. And so, like in canon, Vegeta escapes Earth, and this is when Goku would be put into a hospital and our heroes would begin to hear about Namek. Now, just to let you guys know, this was also being broadcasted with Gohan witnessing Saitama or Caped Baldy being on the move. However, after Vegeta started fighting, the camera cut out, so they mostly only saw Saitama and a little clip of Goku. Gohan, seeing Caped Baldy fight, would have thought to himself how it was so cool, and seeing everybody fight, he too knows himself that he's gonna have to get in there eventually, and he would begin training in his room after studying, just doing a light rep of push-ups, you know, maybe doing some punches and kicks in the air, just getting Gohan started out for his training due to him being motivated by the whole superhero thing. Now this is where the Saiyan saga would conclude, but there's one more thing I'd like to touch on before I end this video off. Vegeta, while flying up to space and trying to find a planet to recover on, he would be intercepted by a ship. We would see Vegeta's ship being pulled towards the bigger ship as he's then brought in. Vegeta would feel as if he's restrained, and that's because this creature who can manipulate gravity is on the ship and is basically pulling Vegeta towards them. Vegeta would say how if they want to kill him, just get it over with, but that's when we see a man approach him. He would say how he's not going to kill him, but rather wants him for a bigger role, and that is to kill Frieza along with this bald human and Kakarot. Vegeta would then question who is this man, and the man would then say, the man whose name puts more fear into people than Frieza and King Cold, Lord Boros. And that is where we are going to be leaving our story off for now. If you did enjoy the video, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to leave a like, and if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button along with hitting that bell icon if you want to see more content from me, along with commenting what videos you would like to see from me in the near future, and if you would like, consider becoming a patron along with following me on Twitter. Shoutouts to Wonder, who is in my $1 tier, aka the Z Fighter tier, and if you want to become a patron again, be sure to go and check out the link in the description. Anyways guys, I'm done. I'm gonna go eat some waffles. I'm tired. Goodbye.